What is up, activators? Happy season 4! I am so excited to be back. So excited that I forgot my mic adapter and everything at home. So happy Mercury retrograde, everybody. And I'm so excited to kick off a brand new season of the show. The guests that we have this season are just so incredible. You'll be hearing, honestly, a lot less from me and a lot more from gorgeous people in the healing community. So I'm so excited to amplify their voices with all of you. And what's crazy is we're here in season 4. It's been, I don't know, 3 or so years of doing this podcast now, which is even longer than I've been out of the corporate world and being a corporate girly. So coming up on August 1st, it'll be my anniversary of moving into health, wellness, movement full time. And to each and every one of you that have stuck by me or been listening to this podcast from the very beginning, thank you, thank you, thank you. Your support in all of this change and this transition has been just so meaningful and so appreciated. So I love you so much and thank you so much for being here. That being said, like it's been such a reflective period for me this past year, and over the next few episodes I'll share a little bit more about kind of what I'm up to and how I'm reflecting and spending time there. But my Saturn just returned in May, and there's this sense of completion and newness. And for all of us, we've been through a season or two of our lives where we're just like, what the heck is happening? What direction am I heading? And what do I need to do next? And so I feel like the last year or so of my life has been a deep de-shedding process. I bought this snake ring that I'm wearing right now in Peru when I was there in April. And as I talked about on an episode in last season, the snake is that deep, dark, like underworld entity, right? And it's the underbelly, the shifting and transformations of things sometimes we don't always see until they're fully happening and the skin is laying over there. And so, yeah, I feel like the last year has been such an incredible unfurling, unraveling for me. And while I'm honestly still really unsure, more sure than I was, but feeling a little bit more settled into this next version of who I'm becoming, I really feel like the foundation is set and now I can start to build, which is not only exciting, but it's also a little bit scary. I found myself in a freeze response a lot lately of like, I'm having so many amazing ideas, but I don't know what to do with myself. And so trying and finding the time and the energy to like go all in, it's been hard. It's been hard for me to do. And for the past couple of weeks especially, I've had to get really honest with myself about how out of touch I've felt with me. And it's twofold. It's like my soul, but also my body. As I've also shared, I am going through a birth control detox process. And while I figured it might take this long, I'm still experiencing a lot of physical symptoms that are just adding challenges to my day to day, from energy levels that are just up and down and sideways every single day, to weird sleep patterns, to my skin being incredible one day and then insanely freaking out the next. And so I'm really just trying to roll with the punches right now and notice when I'm being unkind to myself. I am my own worst critic, my own worst enemy, if you will. And a lot of the times my soul allows my ego to get in the way by telling stories, and honestly, stories that are fully lies. They instill fear in me of what if this, what if that, versus sitting in the what is of like, oh my God, look how far you've come, and let that be the motivator and honestly the proof that you can keep going. So as I've been feeling really out of touch with myself lately, of course, with all the beautiful things that are coming in, I feel like I haven't given myself the chance to fully receive those. And with a crazy busy schedule, I'm teaching a lot. I'm probably not eating as much as I should be. And just letting my mindset kind of be not where I need it to be to pursue this beautiful lifestyle that I've chosen and am creating in co-creation with the universe right now. And so right now I'm spending a lot of time working on myself. One thing I'll say that is just slowly creeping up on me and has become really, really prevalent in my thoughts in the last couple of weeks is the fact that I turn 30 this year. I feel like I was so naive and unaware, and now I'm like so crazily aware of the fact that my birthday this year is a really big milestone. I'm moving from this decade of 20s that I've become so familiar with. It feels like home to me in a lot of ways, and moving into this kind of, okay, next quote unquote cycle or phase of life where, society in our world has a lot of expectations of. And I was talking with a friend today, sharing with her, like, while it feels like some of those expectations are definitely arbitrary, or we check a box to say we did this by this age, it still feels like a sense of belonging to say that you've done those things or you've experienced these life things. And so there's a weird sense of pressure on my shoulders to really get my shit together and have something to show for it. And not that that's not the case now, because I generally believe that I have my shit together and kind of always have. It just feels a little bit different. And I've been feeling really closed off about it, and I'm trying to be a little bit more open and excited about this next beautiful decade of life rather than being stuck on all the things that haven't happened yet or maybe won't happen at all. And while my mindset has been all over the place as I continue to navigate and figure out what path I want mine to be, I've also been really mean to myself, really hard on me and what I'm doing, and especially my body, how it looks, how she performs, and everything in between. I think generally as women, we always have this pressure to look a certain way according to beauty standards that we've all, of course, made up and then subscribed to. But I think generally, just as a person, you want to live your best life and feel healthy, and do the things that light you up. And, I'm just kind of rounding the corner in these last couple of weeks of like, no, I really need to take this seriously. Like, I want to age gracefully, of course, and I want to have beautiful experiences, but I also really, really want to make the vessel I call home the most, holy and wholesome space that I possibly can. And when it comes to, my ways of figuring out my cycle, I've learned when to look in the mirror and when to not to. And unfortunately for me, it's been a lot more not looking at myself than I am lately. And so I'm really buckling in to challenge this belief that I have to be a certain way to feel beautiful, pretty, desirable even. And, I also think it's important to always remind ourselves that our bodies change every single day, every minute. And it's hard to keep that mindset sometimes of a loving perspective of what our bodies are capable of and what they do for us every day. So I'm really trying to focus in on that. And as I get a little bit more grounded, here are a couple things that I'm doing for me. One is to move my body for me. A couple of weeks ago, I taught, I think, 23 or 24 classes that week, and I was unwell by the end. Of course, when you're in a heated environment for most of that time, I was also taking classes on top of that, and it just was not a good combo. And so, one, I'm slowing down my schedule to carve out time for me to make it to my mat, to go on a walk outside and get some sunlight in my eyes, to just decompress from having to, or getting to rather, sequence and create this sort of movement creativity but finding a way to meet myself wherever I'm at that day and at least offer myself a little bit of time for me. And it can be really gentle and it can be really fun, or it can be really intense and make me feel really empowered and strong too. So I'm moving my body. In accordance to that, I also signed up for something new. And I know I always say you don't need another certification to feel whole, but with the idea that Matt and I are moving soon and, Pilates is just such a hot thing right now, I signed up for a heated mat training through a local studio here in the Valley. And I'm just loving the experience so far. I feel like anytime I ever practiced Pilates, I thought it was just so similar to yoga or, to bar or any of the other modalities that I've moved my body with. And what's so cool is learning the science and the small different ways that you can tweak a movement pattern to make someone feel stronger and to create that result of physical strength. And so I already feel, just with taking a bunch of classes lately and practicing some of the movements, getting to know all the fun, creative opportunities in teaching a class that there are. I'm really, really just loving the process of being a student again. It's lit me up inside, and honestly, I already feel like has made me a better teacher in some of the other modalities that I offer in my day-to-day path. So absolutely loving doing something new. The timing might have been a little chaotic, but it feels really, really good. Something else that I've tried before but haven't really kept up on is creating a good word box. I have this cute little white box that says make a wish on the top, and inside it are these little post-it sized papers and a marker. And anytime someone shares with me something that they loved about my class, or in meeting me and just commenting on my energy or making me feel seen at the soul level, I write it down and I put it in that box. And on the days that are hard or feel really, really like I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing, quote unquote, supposed to, I go back and I look at those messages and see just how much people believe in me when I didn't even ask them to, or that I created some sort of impact, no matter how subtle or how small, to support them in their journey. And that helps me remember, that's what I'm here for. I feel my purpose on this planet is to support the discovery of you. As I discover myself too, we can do it together. And so I always write down those things and keep that good word box to just give myself a moment to be a little bit kinder to my soul when I'm not feeling confident or I'm not feeling sure of myself. From a health perspective, I am finally working with Rachel Hepner, who was on season 2 of this podcast. And we're doing some hormone testing and GI mapping. Since my body is still working on all this stuff, I really just want to get clarity and know what's going on in there as best as I can. So I sent my POOP off to the lab in the mail a couple of weeks ago, and I'm still waiting for the results. But I'm really, really excited to have just a little bit more data and information about me and what's going on right here. Because energetically, I check in with myself all the time, but sometimes I just kind of ignore the things that my body is telling me. So learning to slow down and take in this information and make the adjustments to my nutrition, my lifestyle accordingly is something that I am looking so forward to. I also, in talking with a close friend of mine today, she gave me this idea that there's been so much good stuff that has happened, so much shedding, so much unfurling, and so much still coming that I need to remind myself of. And so in the next couple of days and in the next couple of episodes too, I'll share this, but I'm going to take some time to do a little year in review of my life so that I can really reflect on and look back what's opened up and what's been created since I left corporate America. As you guys know, it was the biggest decision I've probably ever made for myself in my entire life. And trading a desk job for this unwritten lifestyle has not come easily. And it still is hard in many, many ways. And just like this good word box, I really do think sitting down and giving myself that performance review with my quote fingers will give me that opportunity to just really see how much magic the universe and I have made together, and remind me that like I am just where I'm supposed to be. So stay tuned for that. I will share all the details, all the cool things, and I'm so, so excited for you to hear. The last thing I'll share is I am trying to be very conscious with my time. I am only putting my energy into the people, the places, and the things that are lighting me up right and bringing me joyful energy at this moment. I've had a few spots where it's like I can feel those people-pleasing tendencies creeping on in, where I say yes to something that didn't feel like a fuck yes, or I'm making up stories in my head about plans that I have 4 weeks from now that I signed up for and maybe in that moment don't actually want to go and do. So I'm really trying to connect with people that I know love and support me, and also creating new connections with people who are in a very similar season of building themselves and discovering themselves all over again right now. And it's been such a fun time. Lots of coffee dates, lots of, subtle, chill nights too, and just really deep conversations. And those are what absolutely just light my soul on fire. So all that to say, that's what I'm doing. And maybe you try one of those things out for yourself if you're listening and you feel like you're in a season that just feels action-packed 99.9% of the time. Know that you are not alone and just be brave to slow down. I think it's really easy to just keep moving and pushing and grinding. And the brave thing to do is sometimes give yourself a breath to sit back and just listen to the magic that's happening around you and know that you are fully, fully supported. So, what to expect this season? I'm actually not going to give you that much of a preview here on this episode because each episode is going to be so different. We're going to hear about topics this season that you've never heard from on this show before, and the guests are just incredible. I will say that the interviews were so much fun for me to do. And once again, every single time I sit down to do this, I'm reminded of how beautiful the people that are sitting in front of me are. But you think you know a person and their gifts and their talents until you get to interview them in this kind of conversational setting and learn all about, what they do and who they are. And so whether this is your first episode or your 37th, thank you for being here. Like I said at the beginning, your support means the world. And I'm so, so excited with that to introduce our guest for this episode. His name is Greg Mesterhazy, and he is just a newfound friend and a biomagnetic master. I met him in Sedona. Funny enough, I was there for a breathwork retreat. He was visiting some friends. And when I booked the Airbnb, it was so cool because it was kind of this shared space. So we each had our own kind of areas of the house, but it was awesome because it was so open. We could use the kitchen or sit outside or whatever. And our schedules never really worked out where we got to meet each other until the very, very last day. And so I literally was about to leave and head out home, and he was about to go out on a hike. And I was talking to him, and it just felt so serendipitous that he himself identifies as a healing person and has made his life mission to support others in healing themselves. And yeah, we connected so quickly, and we've gotten to connect since then in person, in real life. He just moved from Hawaii to California. And so I'm so excited to tell you a little bit more about him. Greg grew up in Hungary, and he shares on this episode how he spent a lot of time outside, like running around, learning to love nature. But he also was a really hard worker, a great student. And at one point, he was even running his father's business at home. And then he moved to the US as an adult and started to work in sales and tech, big corporations, big energy. And of course, with that, big expectations. And while he was super successful and painting this beautiful picture of what his life felt like on the outside, inside he felt really burnt out and was dealing with all sorts of health issues. He'll talk a little bit about some of those, one of them being Lyme disease on this episode today. And through that journey of quote unquote becoming sick, he tried so many different ways of healing. And, as many of us sometimes feel, conventional medicine doesn't always have all the answers. And in a lot of ways, he felt let down and needed to just try something different, which led him to try biomagnetism, which is placing magnets on your body, and that adjusts the energy and the pH of all the magic that's going on underneath your skin. He'll tell you all about it. And biomagnetism has created this whole new level of transformation and shifted his physical health and his mental health so much so that he quit his corporate job and moved into supporting people as a practitioner in this work with magnets full time. So now he's left behind that corporate world and the burnout culture that we all know and sometimes experience to pursue teaching others how to heal themselves, both with magnets and, of course, intuitively and with self-trust. So Greg is in Southern California. Hello? I'm okay. Greg is now located in Southern California, where he offers in-person and online sessions. And he, on this episode, explains a lot about the science of biomagnetism, but also the intuitive process. So I think it's a really cool partnership between that so-called Eastern and Western side of things. And he also shares a lot of his holistic approach to healing others. It's not one thing that he gets to figure out and then cool, you're healed. It's a multifaceted, multi-layered process that he does. Greg also has a really inspirational view on the power that we have as humans in our lives, right? We can take ownership and make changes and transform, and we can also leave room for the magic to happen. And he talks all about that in this episode. I really love Greg's mindset because he's super open to talking to people who are a little bit skeptical about biomagnetism or other things, quote unquote, spiritual. And he has a deep respect for the path that each of us are on and doing our best to meet and honor others where they are. And I think you'll just get a fun little taste of Greg's sense of humor and his sass and his funny personality on this episode too. So I'm so excited for you to hear. He also is being so generous and offering a code for $33 off your appointment with him. So I will make sure that you have that code in the show notes, but it's all capitals spiritual 33. So you can book an appointment with him and get a little bit of cash off to heal with Greg. So I'm so excited for you to meet him. And without further ado, here he is.
Hey, Caitlin. Nice to see you
How are
again.
you doing?
Very
Me
good.
too.
Thank you. Very good.
Good. You were just telling me you just relocated from Hawaii to California. How's that going?
You know, it's going great, and it's also lot of changes are happening at the same time.
Yeah.
Seasons are changing. I'm going through a major adjustment period. It's different. It's different in California from Hawaii. So that's definitely worth acknowledging. And
Yes.
and in my business, I'm going through huge reconfigurations, and big changes are coming.
Yeah. The only constant in life. That's really exciting, though. I'm excited for you.
Thank
I'll
you.
be in California in a couple of weeks.
Okay. All right. You know,
I'll
let me
I'll message you. I'll let you know. Me and my boyfriend will be there for a wedding, so I'm sure we'd love to connect if we have time and if you have
Perfect.
time.
So this place is perfect because I'm right in between LA and San Diego.
Perfect. That's where we'll be. We'll be in like Oceanside area.
No. Okay,
Yes.
I'll tell you a secret off record about that later.
Okay, cool. Awesome. Well, I love to start the show with a couple questions that I ask all my guests. And
Okay.
this one's rhetorical, but are you spiritually active?
You can say yes. Yes, I'm quite active spiritually, if you will.
Yes.
Yes.
What does that mean for you in your own personal life, either in your business or just like your day to day?
Yeah, love the question. So, yeah, it means being present and grounded and also connected with something greater than me.
Hmm.
It means to
Beautiful.
me to be committed to my intuition rather than my personality, especially in my work, in my work and in
Hmm.
my decisions and my relationships.
Lovely. How do you get grounded or get centered? What modalities do you like to play around with or practice in your own life?
I mean, I meditate every day, for the last probably 15, 20 years, somewhere there.
Wow.
Started gradually, and there were some points when I meditated 2 hours a day, an hour in the morning, hour in the evening. I kind of eased up from that nowadays, but I still meditate every morning. I journal.
Hmm.
I like to get out into nature and ground that way. You know, um, I I love yoga. I do yoga
Me
sometimes.
too. Yeah.
Yeah, and sometimes I go to breath work, things like that. Um, and yeah, I love sailing too. Sailing really helps me just take the phone into the boat and leave
Hmm.
and just be with nature that way. But it's the same in the forest or, on the field. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I remember when I met you in Sedona, you were going on like a big hike or a big trek or something like that.
Yeah.
Am I remembering that correctly?
Correct.
Yeah,
Yeah, I was just getting ready to go for a hike.
cool. Awesome. I love it. All those things. They're easy to incorporate in your everyday life or try to, at
And
least.
also magnets.
Yes.
You know, if I don't have time for like a routine or I don't have time to go to yoga class, I just put a few magnets on myself and, use the magnets and my breath and sometimes, just scanning the body on like, okay, so what's happening? What is this
Hmm.
emotion that's throwing me off, right? And, for what it's worth, the magnets are really helpful in regulating the body.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like I'm having some sensation go on in my head a little bit too. If you can't see us and you're listening to this episode, Greg has some magnets on for me because I've still been getting vertigo and dizziness ever since I got back from my trip. There they are. And that's what Greg does, which we'll get into in just a minute. Um, so tell us like how you got here. Tell us a little bit more about yourself, your previous lives up till now.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. How did I? That was a long and arduous journey to get here.
Yes.
Through chronic Lyme, um, being a workaholic, and I was a project program manager working for tech companies, and and that has its beauties and also its challenges. Um, what really started me on the path of becoming a healing practitioner is my own journey to health and wellness. I was
Hmm.
really not doing well with chronic Lyme, and so I tried a lot of things, and eventually biomagnetism was the thing, the modality that tipped the needle, and I started feeling better,
Hmm.
and I started learning ways of taking care of myself, knowing tips and tricks and techniques for when I don't feel well and I know how it feels, I can apply a few magnets and change my feeling, like how I'm feeling in my body, my functions, um,
Hmm.
from sleep to, stress, digestion, all these things. And so I started improving, and then I learned the techniques from the best, Dr. Garcia. And so, I started applying it on friends and family, and, you know, they started noticing changes themselves. And there came a point when I couldn't stay on the same course of, you know, working in tech. And I had this calling to just let go of that path and start a completely new one and trust this commitment to hopefully awakening people to their own power on healing themselves.
Beautiful. And like coming back to the body, like you were saying, I think when we're in that go, go, go mode, as someone who's also worked in corporate America for years, and um, it's it's a very structured environment. You're working all the time, doing what you need to, and with it, I think comes that feeling of like I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. Meanwhile, our bodies are like, no, not quite. So I think it's really, really brilliant. And it's very cool to hear. I think a lot of people are opening up to the fact of like, hey, I sit for XYZ hours a day. Um, and I work XYZ hours a day too, and it makes us feel like unhealthy when you really think about it, even though it's not always the case. There's a lot of us out there that have no awareness of what's going on until it gets to a point where it's hard or it's bad or we are indeed unhealthy.
That's why I love that you started this podcast, because I'm sure there's people out there who are just finding it and just like, whoa, okay, this is exactly what I needed right now.
Yeah.
And it's awesome.
Oh, thank you to say that for saying that. Um, do you know like how like what is Lyme disease? I think a lot, we hear it's a chronic illness, right? I think it's become a lot more prevalent as of the late, but can you kind of share like what was going on, maybe how you got to that point where you're like, I'm not well, and what made you discover magnets in the first place?
Okay. Yeah, I have to be careful. I can't
Yeah,
use certain words, because I'm not a doctor.
yeah,
Um, I'm a practitioner, right? So, however, what I can talk about is my own personal experience, right? And what I
yeah,
went through and how I felt and what I experienced. And if I made some changes, then how I felt
exactly.
and experienced life, right? So I can tell you that, um, yeah, as I started moving up in my career in tech, my stress level also increased.
Hmm.
And with the stress, certain things tipped. So I remember being bit by ticks as a kid in Hungary. We had a big backyard.
Hmm.
I would pick ticks off of me left and right, pretty much. Because we had grass and trees, and we would just hang out there
Yeah.
all the time, or go and hike and be in the forest. So I got bit by ticks quite a bit, and they say it's a tick-borne um, illness or sickness, and you need to have Borrelia, Babesia, and Bartonella bacterias to call it Lyme disease, and that's the
Hmm.
base. So Western medicine considers those three to qualify for Lyme disease. Now, in my experience, and again from what I learned from more experienced practitioners and doctors in the field, and according to my own research, Lyme disease is really a systemic issue.
Hmm.
So you start it decreases your immune system. These three bacteria, if left untreated, they start wreaking havoc in all sorts of systems. And last stage is, you know, your nervous system, and then attacks the heart or the brain, and then you're done.
Hmm.
So, and they usually prescribe antibiotics. If left untreated, Lyme disease can become this systemic chronic issue.
Yeah.
And so, in our approach of biomagnetism, is that we we scan the body for imbalances. So, and those could be any kind of imbalances in the brain, in the heart, in the nervous system, in the digestive system. And then we aim to correct those imbalances with specific targeted placements of magnets. And eventually, we recondition the body to be in the new balance, which is a healthy balance, which is homeostasis, where your
Yes.
body knows how to eliminate and recreate and be in a healthy state. So you sleep more, you're more relaxed, your elimination works properly, and therefore you can heal yourself.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And it sounds too, I'm a big believer that, the body knows, the body is very intelligent, and therefore it also expands kind of past that into your energy too, to your point. Maybe you're sleeping more, you're feeling more rested. It might lead you into other practices or other ways of discovering yourself, which I think is just so cool when you feel well. Is a subjective term because that's different for everybody, right? But like, I'm sure you were feeling like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna try this magnet thing because, all the attempts at getting better have not worked properly. So,
Yeah,
um,
I was, yeah, when I was recommended to check it out, I was just like, what, magnets? Come on. I tried so many things,
yeah, yeah,
from IVs to antibiotics to other pills to sauna and cold plunge and yeah, hyperbaric chamber and you know.
yeah.
But I was like, I have nothing to lose. And this person who recommended um, Dr. Garcia to me, 4 years ago, she said she also had Lyme disease and it was tested and it was
Mm.
positive. And she went to work with Dr. Garcia and now she doesn't have it. And she doesn't have all those feelings, you know, of, you know, dysfunctional experiences that she used to. So I was like, okay, sign me up.
Yeah, I love that. Can you break down for us like what's happening during a session?
Mhm.
You were sharing a little bit with me how, and I think we all know, like magnets have opposites. That's how they stick together. So can you share a little bit about like what happens in a session and the science behind what's going on physically when we're in one?
Great. Yeah, absolutely. So in a session, what happens is I basically scan you from the top of your head to the bottom of your feet
Hmm.
bioenergetically. So I use kinesiology or muscle testing to ask your body, what are the imbalances? Where do I need to
Mm-hmm.
place magnets? And then your body knows, right? It's law of all or nothing. It's either yes or a no.
Yes.
So, and then wherever there's a yes, I place magnets on an opposite polarity. Let's say it's on, on the forehead, right here. And then I place two magnets to correct that imbalance. Or, on the sides of the eyes. Could be anywhere, basically.
Yeah.
Um, and by placing these magnets, what you're doing, you're correcting energetic or chemical imbalances.
Mm.
It's everything has an energetic frequency, everything has a vibration. In biomagnetism, we are more focused on explaining how it works through pH because
Mm.
magnets can and do alter hydrogen molecules. So, because the body is predominantly is water, right? More
Mm-hmm.
when we are younger, and as we age, usually gets less and less. But in H2O, there's two hydrogen to each oxygen. So what we're doing, we're altering the hydrogen in our bodies.
Mm.
So what happens in a session is really a co-creative process, in my view. You could just come in and not talk to me and let me do what I do, that's one thing, right? I could do that. In other, how I love to work is when I can ask people questions. Okay, so like when we were just talking about previously, we were talking about like, okay, you're experiencing this. Did you come across with certain things? Did you have an imprint of certain things? And then that addresses my way of questioning. And I always am looking at not the symptoms, but what could be the underlying cause.
Yeah.
So, and in our bodies, we have the capacity, unless the situation is so dire that it can also only be like stopped. We can, in most cases, get so much better.
Yeah. That's fascinating. It's cool to hear, like, of course, I believe in all the science behind things like this. Because yeah, you're moving things around. But what's even cooler for me to hear is like for you, it's almost an intuitive practice as the practitioner of like there's that level of trust that, whoever is coming to you, um, knows like, hey, he's gonna tune in and listen in to places where like maybe I don't have that awareness right now, or consciously, I guess, have that awareness. Um, I think that's like the ultimate job of a healing person or a healer, right? Is to create that space to understand the parts of you that it's like, I don't think about those every day. I just don't feel good, you know?
I love to work with people who are skeptical but open to it.
Totally.
Yeah, because they're like, whoa, okay, that was unexpected,
Yeah.
and I work with them. Yeah, and I get all these raving feedback sometimes. It's just like, well, I was totally skeptical about it. I went to try it out just so I can convince myself or confirm to myself that this is just something woo-woo, you know. And then they're like, whoa, but actually I slept great, or
And you're like,
or or they were constipated for 3 days before, and now no problem.
yeah.
So
Wow.
so that's one thing. Um, the other thing, how we are communicating constantly with not just our words.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, when someone comes to see me, I am observing them as one, reflection of this experience. Like
Yeah.
their own universe, in other words, is somebody. It's depending on how aware they are of their bodies or their emotions, they will experience different things.
Right.
So it is my job to really pay attention to them and not to put in my ideas.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the hardest part of this work is, I might have an idea, I might have a reaction to somebody, but really stepping out of the way and let the work come through
Yeah. Wow.
and letting
I
them guide me into what they need.
Yeah, I bet that is really hard sometimes because we are, as humans, I'd like to say we're pretty good communicators for the most part. But for example, earlier I was sharing with like how I'm feeling, and
Right.
it's probably so easy to be like, oh, it's probably this, this, and this. Um, versus, just based on experience, based on how I positioned those things to you through my words, like how I'm coming across. So it's quite the cool balance between that intuition and working with the body and like listening to someone and what they're going through.
Yes, and then knowing them from there, what to do, right? Yeah, so knowing where to place the magnets or what to place or what not to place, you know, the good thing the magnets don't have a side effect. If you don't need a pair, nothing will happen.
Mm-hmm.
So in that way, it's great. That's one of the reasons I love this because if you just don't need a pair, if I'm placing an extra pair because I think you need it,
Mm-hmm.
nothing's gonna happen.
Right. That's
So,
crazy.
if I can choose for myself, I always put a bunch of pairs on myself. And sometimes, for the most part, I muscle test for myself, but sometimes I just feel and I know what to do. So with clients, I always muscle test everything.
Cool. Can you share what that is? I've done muscle testing before during some readings and things like that, but I know
Okay.
there's a couple different ways that you can do it. So
Right.
I'm curious how you do it.
Oh, for me, usually I have a massage table where I work. Um, so the client comes in fully
Hmm.
clothed on the massage table, and I use these fun little shoes at the end of the table. So I'm sitting where their feet is at. I put
Uh-huh.
these little shoes on them, and I place magnets in the shoe already. So they're already feeling grounded and
Hmm.
balanced and like, whoa, something's happening already. Um, so I use the feet to see any changes. So the length of the feet will talk to me, in other words.
Hmm.
People use arms or fingers in all sorts of ways. This is just great because I'm right there. I can make notes or take notes. I can apply magnets. Um, this is how it was developed by Dr. Boyce, who developed this modality. So, if if someone can't lay down on the table or they're sitting, then I would use their arm or their hand or their
Hmm.
wrist. Or, if I'm doing a remote session, I would muscle test on myself. Or another other way to do it is if I have a surrogate, like last time I was working with a remote client on the East Coast from California, and her sister came as her surrogate.
Wow.
So the sister got the benefit, and the sister on the East Coast got the benefit also.
Wow. Wait, so they were both virtual?
No, so there's, one of them were here in the office.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Wow. That's so freaking cool.
right?
We are so connected. Oh my gosh. And like during a session, what are people feeling? As I was sharing with you, I kind of felt some things moving right away before we started.
Right.
But what do your clients describe like feeling or experiencing during these sessions?
You know, one of the things, let me answer you this way. One of the things I'm really looking at nowadays is how do I measure what happens in a biomagnetism
Hmm.
session? Because, feeling is subjective. But when your aura ring, for example, tells you that you were stressed when you started the session and now you're restored or relaxed, and I have several of these records already. I even have a video on my Instagram just talking about this. That's direct feedback, right? You can't
Hmm.
fool that. So, yeah, people usually feel relaxed, calm,
Yeah.
balanced, centered, a relief, you know?
Hmm.
We always work with emotions also. Like we see the body, the human as a whole, not just the body and not
Absolutely.
just the soul and not just the emotions, right? But all of it together. And so sometimes when we bring these hidden or unknown emotions to the surface, there could be a huge release.
Yes.
Um, and so, yeah, people usually feel very relaxed and recharged after a session or very tired and they need to rest. And there comes, their integration process in that.
Hmm. Yeah. I know we were talking a little bit about this, but what does um integration look like from a session or just working with magnets generally? Is it a long time? Is it a short window? Does it depend on the person, what you were solving for or treating them with? What does that look like?
Absolutely. Depends on the person.
Yeah.
If it's, say, an injury or recovery from a surgery, I worked with a number of people who just had a surgery and wanted some extra help in recovery. And so, using the magnets for someone, a good friend of mine, for example, he had a shoulder surgery.
Hmm.
And I showed him 3 or 4 things to alternate every day on his shoulder because it was inflamed. He just come out of the surgery, right?
Of course, to be
Um,
expected. Yeah.
yeah, so big deal. Um, and he used the magnets, and later on, few weeks later, he texted me and said, both my surgeon and my physical therapist are asking me what am I doing because they never seen a recovery this fast.
That is so cool.
So okay, so that was one way of answering the question, but
Yeah.
everybody's different. Let's say there is somebody dealing with gut issues, right? Or digestive issues, and they are so used to for years and years and years to be constipated, right? For example,
Yeah.
big deal, right? It's impacting their way of life, their interactions, their considerations, emotional state completely. And so, in certain ways, we need to in certain cases, in certain ways, we need to recondition the body to be familiar with the new normal, which is the normal, or closer to the normal.
Hmm.
So, yeah, for something like this, it's a very gentle approach. So, subtle changes can be making a big impact on people's quality of life. So, sometimes in one session, you make the big shift and you don't need to repeat anything ever again.
Hmm.
Sometimes you benefit from placing a few magnets at home in very specific ways. And I always give my clients either videos or diagrams on how to do that and how often. And if and when they do those recommendations, then they see a change.
Hmm.
And then so the next session comes in a week, 2, 3, 4 weeks, whenever. Um, they are doing so much better. So I can deal with or help them deal with the next layer that they need to do in order to feel even better.
I was about to say, like, that probably, I picture, you walk in, you figure out exactly what's going on, and then you just apply the magnets and everything's better. But it's, as you mentioned, looking at the human as a whole person, like, there are layers to us that, it's like, do I help them with the gut issues before the shoulder injury or vice versa, right? Like, that's just so cool to hear how, it's a fun puzzle, I'm sure.
It's fun. I mean, it's very interesting. It's talking about other people's problems is fun. I'm not sure how ethically correct that is. However, the process of figuring it out is very fascinating and interesting because there's always a priority, right?
Right.
If they cannot sleep, they're stressed out, and their gut is off balance. Just to keep with that example, what is the priority, right? We have to get them off stress, for example. I'm not saying it's always the case, but okay, so what is the emotion behind the stress? And then we find the emotion, right? And then we have to work with the emotion because we don't just bring it up. Like, okay, so what is this? Okay, let's say shame or guilt or fear, right? Um, what is that? How is that impacting your life? Where is that coming from? What are you doing with it? You know? And then, yes, when and if and when the the person is ready to deal with those questions, then they see a huge shift,
Hmm. Wow.
right? And
So
then
the
there are
magnets are
parts,
like the activator of that.
yeah, and also all these emotions have a um, electromagnetic imprint on our bodies, right?
Yeah.
And that's why I love, and it's a shout out to HeartMath because they are investing into the science of measuring and presenting these findings
Hmm.
and how emotions affect our energy fields that is actually measurable.
Yes, absolutely.
So when we change that energetic state, we just still magnets.
Yeah.
Then,
I
yeah.
oh, go ahead. You
No,
go
no,
on.
just to wrap it up, when we change the energetic state with just two magnets, you feel a change and you can let go of certain stuck things. It's emotion, energy in motion. When energy in motion is stuck, then it creates blockages. And what blockages do, they create dis-ease.
Mm-hmm. It's funny. I don't know if I shared this with you, but last time I was on a breathwork retreat in Sedona, it actually might have been the one that I met you at.
Hmm.
Um, my mentor's wife, she's just started working with magnets. So she was like, I want to share this with you. Like, let's try it out. So we went around the circle and we were kind of talking about like the big five emotions: shame, guilt, anger. There's more. I can't think of them off the top of my
Yeah.
head.
Resent.
Maybe you can.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, but she did a little bit of muscle testing and she came over to me and almost immediately, like she didn't even have to touch me. She was like, shame. She whipped out the magnets, she taped them onto me, and there was definitely like energy moving, not only during that like 15 minutes or so that we had the magnets applied, but then even after, which, back to how we got into this conversation where the integration comes in, where like the processing and the allowing of moving those things happens.
Yeah, you felt an immediate change, right? Some tingles, some you can't really explain it sometimes. It's maybe a tingle here, or something is changing or shifting, maybe a little
Hmm.
bit of pressure, maybe it's clearing up. You don't, it's really hard to explain sometimes, and some people are having a hard time. They're like, well, I feel something, but I don't know how to talk about it. Yeah, and then, okay, so whenever that pattern comes up, right, you know it from your practices of meditation and yoga and journaling or whatever that is,
Yeah.
that, oh, it's still there, it's still coming up. Am I going to go
Yes.
into it? Am I going to go play the victim or see what is this teaching me?
Hmm. Oh, that's so cool. I think what the most fascinating thing with just, hearing what you do is I am sure that this never gets old for you. Like
Mhm.
just hearing your clients' bodies and beyond that, the energy of, their person, their soul, like talking to you. And then, of course, seeing results like of them getting better, whatever that means for that person. I'm sure that's just like, of course, that's why you do this work.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons.
Yeah. And to help
No,
people
I
get
love it.
better.
No, that is the reason, right? So,
Yeah.
uh, yeah, it's so many of those stories, especially when people are skeptical and then they still give it a go and then they see immediate huge changes. And that's just great. And also working with people, um, like recovery from big deal things, like cancer
Mm.
or chronic Lyme, or you name it, like an injury or surgery. Um, and then they see how they change, and they feel better.
Mm.
And they can do things that they weren't able to do before. They can exercise again. They can sleep better. Um, yeah, the list goes on and on.
Yeah. What do you say to people who are skeptical? Um, I'm sure we've all run into those people before of like whatever we practice both personally or professionally. It's like, I don't believe in that stuff.
You know,
What do you tell them?
I usually just respect their point of view, and I
Mm.
I bring out, I usually bring up like research like heart math. There are institutions, and also Western medicine is using EKG, MRI.
Mm-hmm.
You know, magnetism has so many applications, and Western medicine is using it to certain degrees.
Yeah.
And magnetism is one of the basic laws of the universe. So if I have to say more than that, then I just let it go.
Yeah.
And I know that I'm not for everybody, and that's okay.
I think that's how we all feel, like the things I believe in and value are not always going to be the things that you do. And that's kind of the beautiful part of being a human. Like we don't all have to see, we will not see from the same eyes any situation. I always think it is extremely fascinating, especially when it comes to like health, physical health. Um, the the interesting lengths, I guess I'll say, that people are willing to go to get well. And, yoga for some people is like, absolutely not. That's a hard no. Like, I would never do that. That won't help me. I see that every day when I go to class and I'm in some spaces that like people are not into it. And then I'm like, don't you feel so much better after you just breathe for 5 minutes? And they're like, yeah, actually, I do. I'm like, exactly. So I'm sure it's kind of fun sometimes to run into those people who are like, yeah, I don't know what this is about, but at least I'm willing to try.
Yeah, that's the best. That's the
Yeah.
best. But, if not, and they're like, but tell me about the science and on the atomic level. I'm like, yeah, every atom in our bodies are running on electromagnetism.
Yeah.
If you want to argue that, okay, well then, good luck to you.
Yeah.
You know?
You're like, here's 3 studies. Bye. I don't even go to that length sometimes. Like with breathwork or yoga, I'm just like, you can choose to do it or you can choose to not to. That's it.
When it comes down to like spirituality, it's also I think it's important that to honor everybody on wherever they are.
100%. Yeah. Sometimes that's hard.
Yeah. Like,
You're like,
why are you banging
oh,
your head against the wall?
right.
Here's a
Yeah.
pillow. Take a nap.
Yes. Yeah. Totally. And two, I think when you know that you can help people and they're resistant to that support or that help, like it's it's part of their journey, to your point. It's their own unfolding and understanding of who they are and where they're at.
Yes.
We'll leave it there. Cool. Um, well, to wrap us up, I have a few questions for you that I like to ask all my guests. The first is, what is your favorite part about the human experience?
Okay. Love this question. Uh, my favorite part of the human experience is that it's both beautiful and messy at the same time.
Hmm.
Yeah. And how are we our own, all of us are on our own journey in it. And so it's kind of like we're swinging back and forth
Yeah,
between happy and messy. I'm just going to call it that.
totally.
And we have this idea that if and once we do this one thing and we go to this retreat or we get this or that treatment or whatever, then we'll feel better. And then we do, and we do feel better. And now what?
Yes. And what does better mean?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just I I love to like be my child and play and come from that a lot, and so,
Mm.
you know, and honoring that experience of being a human, and it's not always easy and it's not always hard.
Yes. Oh, that's a beautiful way of saying that. It can be both and neither of those things all at once.
Yeah, and sometimes, sometimes some days are like, ooh, not again. And you still get up and still do what you need to do, or decide to stay in bed, and that's what you do and do that day.
Yes. Honor it. I
I
love
think we
it.
take it too seriously.
You're preaching to the choir. I take myself very seriously.
Mhm.
But I don't at the same time. It's such a weird, like, paradoxical way of thinking.
Yeah, I think there's, like as my grandma would say, there was always a season for everything,
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
or a time or place for everything, or
Yeah.
everything has its own time and place. And when we are not super fixated on like, oh, it needs to be differently, or it should be different, then we have an easier way. And I'm not saying I have it all figured out. It's just I'm enjoying the process. And sometimes I find myself banging my head against the wall, and I just take a step back and give myself a hug.
Yes. Oh, I love that. Um, I like to say, don't should all over yourself.
Oh yeah, a great teacher and mentor of mine says, "Should is a fear-based word."
Yes, it is. Hmm. I love it.
Yeah.
Why do you think spiritual connection is important?
You mean individual, that we have a connection to our spirit or spirit in general?
However you take it.
All right. So in my take on this is that you need a home.
Hmm.
And home is not your couch, your cozy living room, or your bed. Home is where you are. And what are you coming home to when no one is watching, or when everybody's watching and you're in a stressful situation and you have to show up to do something you have never done before? What is that home that you anchor into? And how do you align that with something bigger than you, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's very important to me to have that connection, and just also consider, whatever that is, if it's a connection to God or spirit or, Mother Nature, whatever that is
Sure.
to you. I mean, if, for me, it's all of the above. Yeah.
Yeah. They're interwoven. I love it. Cool. What are some books or resources that you would recommend for our listeners who are like interested in learning all about biomagnetic therapy to get started? Or what's
Okay.
a piece of advice or that you'd share with them?
So about biomagnetism, yes, there's a bunch of resources on the internet about biomagnetism, um, depending on what they want to use it for, right? So I am, you know, I started developing, and I developed a intro to biomagnetism workshop, which is like
Cool.
just a couple hours. And now you're giving me an idea that I need to do that on a digital product.
You
And just,
should.
yeah, it's and it's for those who don't want to become a practitioner, but um, just want to use magnets for their own benefits. Like there's a toothache or a headache or insomnia, stress, whatever it is, just like throw in a few magnets at night, and then by the morning it's gone. So that's one thing that I do offer, and there's some talks about different locations for workshops in California that I'm in the works for. Um, and and so um, there's not really much publication about biomagnetism,
Okay.
and it's a shame. And the ones that are really awesome conceptual books,
Okay.
either or geared towards practitioners.
Okay.
So I mean, now you're giving me this idea of that I need to take these things out of my head and on paper, because I think there's biomagnetism is this beautiful study that we are just discovering,
Mm-hmm.
and bow to the elders, Goyes, Dr. Goyes, who, Richard Meyer, who was a NASA scientist, and he was the one who kind of rediscovered magnets and correcting the leg length of astronauts who would come back from the orbit,
Whoa.
and one of their legs were shorter. And that's how it started. And then Meyer was traveling around and giving this lecture about, well, we place magnets in the shoe and the leg length eventually corrects. And then Dr. Goyes was listening to Meyer on one of his lectures, and he said, oh, let me try this out. And in his own medical practice in Mexico. Um,
Wow.
yeah, and then he did, and it worked. And then he started experimenting with it, and then he started, he started curing many things. So look him up. Very interesting.
Okay.
Um, so Dr. Goyes has a book about biomagnetism. That would be, one recommendation. Um, yeah, and just websites.
Yours.
Yeah.
Very cool. Awesome. And speaking of, where can our listeners find you, either on social or online or in California?
Yes, in California, I'm in Murrieta. I'm practicing out of an optimal U. So it's anoptimalu.com/biomagnetism. Um, or I'm at Magnet Master on Instagram, which is Mester, not Master,
Hmm.
as my last name. And again, so in a few weeks, I'm going to be launching the whole rebranding of how I started in Hawaii. I quit tech and I started practicing in Hawaii. And now I'm in California and I have a lot to bring to everybody. So
Yes.
it's just taking a little bit of time and just that.
As all amazing things do.
Yes. So
Yeah.
sign up on my website. There's a little button, Let's Connect. Just plug in your email, and I'll send you an email to connect, or add me on Instagram at MagnetMaster.
Awesome. And then of course, once we hear, I'll chat with you about like your workshop dates and stuff. And if anybody's listening and wants to come, we'll make sure to share those things with them too, so they can meet you in real life.
That'd be wonderful. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for being on this episode. I feel like I've learned so much about like a brand new practice. Like before meeting you, I really had no idea that biomagnetism was a thing, existed, supports the health of lots and lots of people. So I'm just so excited to see where, you flourish and take this practice to wherever you're headed. So thank you again so much.
Oh, thank you, Caitlin. And you had a first-hand experience. You met me, and then a few days later, right, on the workshop, you had a first-hand experience. It was quite significant too, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So, yes. Yeah, my pleasure, and thank you for having me.
Meant to be. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.